Hello everybody, what is going on? My name is Sir Medieval and today we're going to be playing some Astellia online. This is featuring the gameplay on the North American server. They were actually supposed to be putting in some EU servers later down the line, but right now it looks like everybody's being driven to the NA server at the moment for the closed beta, so this is what we're doing right now. So far the game has actually been running pretty well. I've been surprised at how seamless most of the transitions have been. However, there still are pretty noticeable frame drops in certain areas. The town that you get into at the start of the game, that in the Korean version we had massive frame drops in, it's pretty noticeable there. Not as noticeable of course as on the Korean version, but you still do notice it there. And then occasionally with the UI, whenever you're opening it, I've just found that it's pretty, you know, prevalent in, or sorry, common in Unreal 3 games. It just is bound to happen when you're like flipping through the UI like this. Mainly when you open up the Astell menu, that's when you see it the most. But I just expect that from the Unreal 3 games. I think that's like the hardest thing for developers to fix when it comes to these type in this engine. And in most games it would be a lot worse than that, so I can at least definitely give credit for being able to fix it in there at least. So overall the game itself is pretty interesting so far. The storyline is actually pretty decent from what I've seen. It is, you know, not really going to cater to everybody in terms of the storyline and the lore and whatnot. As you can see, the look of the game itself is not going to cater to everybody as well. I've been asked, of course, how the game compares to Ascent Infinite Realm, and at the moment I'm really not anywhere close to endgame right now, so it's hard to make a real good assumption of how this is going to go. From what I've seen from endgame, it seems like their endgame mechanics, like dungeons for instance, are more mechanics based and are more difficult than Ascent Infinite Realms might be. I think if it has that difficulty factor in it when we do get to endgame, then I think that you could probably have a more enjoyable experience. I think that having that difficulty factor is probably the most important part when it comes to the dungeons. So if they're able to pull that off pretty well, then I think that in that very aspect at least, it should definitely excel. For the PvP side of things, that is based off of the PvP instance of Avalon, alongside the arena unlocking at around level 30 and the Avalon unlocking around level 45, I believe. Yeah, around level 45. And that's basically like a 3 faction based warfare zone is what that is. And then of course the arena is pretty self-explanatory: dual arena, solo or party, unlocking at level 30. This beta specifically is made to specifically test the PvE content. They want to test out the progression and see how the dungeons work, so legendary and normal dungeons. So that means on Saturday, they're planning on actually putting in an NPC that allows us to level up to 50 and get max level gear. The only catch is you have to have a character that's already level 10 or above. But of course, that's not very hard to get at all. The leveling is pretty simplistic, pretty straightforward. You know, quest, and doing certain dungeons can give you a decent amount of XP, but for the most part, from what I've seen so far, questing seems to be the way to go. Hello. All right. There we go. Also, in terms of the Astells themselves, you start to get quite a few of them early on. You know, you'll around level 15, by that point, you should have at least 2 extra ones. And then you'll just start racking them up. Like the deck just starts filling up basically. So it's really not that difficult to get those. You can get them through achievements and from dungeons and things like that. However, they don't want to have them in the cash shop. The cash shop's currently not available in this version, so we don't know what exactly is in it just yet. Hopefully it's cosmetic based only, and then maybe certain utilities, not anything that's of course going to be considered pay to progress or pay to win, like a lot of people don't want. And they've made a list on their website of stuff that they specifically don't want to have in the cash shop, so hopefully that remains true. And in the meantime as well, while we're waiting, this beta is going to be the PvE one, and the next beta might feature the PvP, where we get to try out the arena, the battleground, everything like that as well. And in terms of the leveling, when you do get past like around level 22, 23, that's when the leveling starts to really skyrocket. You start to get up pretty fast in the levels, and you can pretty much get to 50 within the span of like 25 to 30 hours. It starts going pretty quick. In terms of the Astells, one thing that we did see on the Korean version as well was that cosmetic wise in the cash shop, they did actually have cosmetics for your specific Astells. Certain ones were only available at the time, Like Rhoda, I remember being one of them. And there was also another one that I can't recognize right now here, but I remember her being in the cash shop as well for a cosmetic. And then, of course, you had your own cosmetics for your character, too. In terms of the gender lock, right now they're working on the warrior and assassin being the ones that get fixed in terms of gender lock first. And the other classes would come at a later time. So warrior and assassin up till launch is what they're going to be working on, and then after that the other ones will start getting added in as free content updates. One thing I'm been concerned with a bit is I'm not sure what exactly they're planning when it comes to new classes past this point, because the classes we have do have specializations, which is very cool. I never really found out much information about how that works because I never got to that point when it came to the end game, but the specializations did sound pretty cool. I believe it's 3 per class as well. And I think, you know, even having that I'm pretty sure we don't change weapons or anything like that during the course of our gameplay. So I definitely stand by one thing that I've really wished for ever since I joined this game, which is that this game needs more classes, more than likely. And I'm hopeful that we start to get more, maybe like concept art or more, you know, articles, some kind of information to kind of let people know what to expect from the future. Same thing with, you know, content updates like dungeons and raids and things like that, battlegrounds, all kinds of stuff that you could really, you know, showcase through concept art. If they want to get people excited, that might be a good way to do it. Also, one concern that I had was how long it would probably take to, you know, get the classes ungender locked, because it could potentially take, you know, who knows how long. And if they're planning on having the warrior and assassin released by launch, hopefully they decide to add that concept art to kind of give an idea of what's going to come from the future when it comes to classes and new content. I think having something like that would be really beneficial. In terms of the rest of the game that we have right now, hopefully it'll be, you know, enough to hold people over in game for the people that do play. Whoops. But we'll have to see in terms of that as well. A lot of people are just wanting something new, and then more than anything, they just need something that's decent. They don't need anything that's like groundbreaking right now, even though everybody wants something that's groundbreaking. But at the end of the day, if you got something just to burn time, or, you know, you can have some fun in, then really that's all you need. Differences in combat from the KR version, it does seem more noticeable in terms of being smoother. Originally, I thought that it was mainly because we were switching from KR to NA. But there is something about the combat that definitely does seem different. It does seem more reactive, less about locking you down, more responsive in just every way, really. Because even with the VPN on, and sometimes the Korean version would work very, very well, to the point where, you know, you were playing at almost full capacity, at least in PvE. But so far, the combat seems like it has been improved in a couple different ways, and it's very, very nice. Very nice change from the Korean version for sure. Still tab target, of course, so you'll still be seeing this mouse moving around. You'll still, if you have trouble with tab targeting, you'll probably have a little bit of an issue with the camera. Of course, you can hold down the right mouse button to kind of move your camera a little bit around, like in a freeform kind of view, but you'll still fall prey to that tab targeting from time to time. The dungeons, they do start out with about, I want to say about 13 dungeons. They are soloable and party-based. You can actually get the same rewards from soloing and partying. I thought that was kind of interesting, actually. I get that they probably want to cater to the solo play, which is very good. That's also very good. I just figured that maybe the party dungeons would have more rewards than the solo, just to give a more incentive to group up with people. But I don't know. And then, of course, there's the farming dungeons here, which these ones, I guess, is kind of what, you know, I would imagine I'm talking about, because these are like party required. You can't really go into these solo, I don't think, and expect to live. But for the most part, though, they seem to give pretty good rewards. You can get Astells and stuff like that, like mentioned before, in the Astell cards. So that's pretty good, of course. You can also get some really good gear out of it. The gear progression is, so enhancement-wise, from what I remember, it was said that you might have to actually go through the enhancement system with having a chance to get your gear destroyed, which of course a lot of people never really like. I myself have never been a big fan of, you know, gear enhancement systems that have a chance to get your gear destroyed, and I probably never will be. But at the very least, if it's something that people have to deal with, then hopefully it's not to the biggest extent of, you know, certain games that kind of employ this kind of thing, which if we're talking about games like BDO, of course, then I don't think it could ever be close to that unless they start incorporating things like fail stacks, memory fragments, things like that, of course, and then just put a huge heaping pile of RNG behind all of it and just make you feel like you're just pounding your head against the wall every time you open up that menu. But either way, we'll have to see what happens there and how it actually works out, what exactly what exactly the chances are of getting your stuff destroyed, what point you have a chance of getting your stuff destroyed, stuff like that. But anyway, that's pretty much it about the game for right now. First impressions is definitely pretty decent so far. I would give it in the same put it in the same category as it would Air right now, where it's got the potential to be decent. Nothing groundbreaking, of course, and that's not what they advertised the game as either. They want it to be like a classical MMO experience, and for what they're advertising and want it to be, at the very least, I would say that does get met here very well. It does feel like, you know, Aeon used to feel, I would imagine, for a lot of people, like Terra used to feel, for me especially. It does have that old school feel of those kinds of games, so I think that part works pretty well. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do this dungeon really quick. I'm probably going to jump into the actual solo dungeon because I got to do a quest for it. I'll shut up now. Let's go ahead and do this. Okay, here we go. This is the solo version of Crimson Rock Valley. Dungeon I do remember doing from the KR version as well. So in terms of things that we haven't gone over yet, if you wanted to know things about like the dismantling system, trading, for instance, dismantling works pretty much the same way as it does in other games. You know, you go into your inventory, dismantle, boom, take some stuff down, you get armor enhancement stones, weapon enhancement stones, stuff like that. You can also enhance stuff from this menu as well. You put your item in there and you can use the enhancement stones to kind of buff the stuff up, just like so. And that also increases the stats on the particular weapon or armor piece itself too. You can do a show helmet button in here if you'd like. The stat system works a little bit differently than traditional games. You do see that you have remaining stat points here, and it does seem to go up by 1 when you reach either level 10 or 15 at some point there. But the way it works is essentially you increase it by using what is called these little crystals right here, these ultra crystals, and it has a chance to increase it by a certain amount basically. And it's like an RNG stat system, and you can reset it, but the crystals that you spent don't get returned back to you. So there's higher grade crystals that you can use to have a higher chance of increasing your stats to a higher amount. So that's where the grind aspect might come in, where you have to, you know, try and grind out really good crystals if you want to have a pretty good stat bonus and min-max on stuff. The skill system works pretty simplistic as well. When you open this up, you'll notice that you can have skills not be fully unlocked. You'll see the combos, and sometimes they might be locked behind levels like this. When you go into the skill, you can upgrade them too from this menu here, and it shows you what it'll do when you do upgrade it, unlike the Korean version, thankfully. And this would be the burst arrow, for instance. My eagle shot is one that I'm trying to level up right now too, so you basically just hit on that arrow and enhance. And that's all she wrote. In terms of trading, so I haven't tried it yet. Most of these games decide to, you know, limit that because they want to combat gold selling. I wouldn't dismiss this game doing the same. I haven't given it a shot yet, but there is an auction house, and there is actually an item that you can use that makes it to where if there's a bound item in your inventory that you really want to sell, you can actually make that unbound. So one thing that's recommended is to save those kinds of things, and it's called a beeswax, what is this called thing? Yeah, beeswax token. I would save that for in-game stuff, because if you waste that on, you know, lower level gear and then you get some really good stuff later on, you're probably going to feel very bad about it. Just saying, so make sure to be careful there. I think that's the majority of what we talked about as well. You get a mount pretty early on, and then, which is nice. It's always nice when you get a mount early on. That way people don't have to worry about walking everywhere if they don't want to. And then later on down the line, like around level, you know, 15 to 20, I got this black horse, this uncommon version. Seems to run, let me see, I think the movement speed might be a little higher. Oh, actually, no, it's the same, but it has more HP though. That's interesting. Oh, cooldown. Also, of course, one thing to note about the Astells, if you didn't already know, is that when you have more out at one time, it does start bringing down this yellow bar or whatever you want to call it. Astell points, I think they're called. And the top left here. I forgot the exact terminology. So it's beneficial to only have out one at once, but when you do need to bring out a second one, that's when you bring a second one out. I don't know what Rhoda's doing though. Okay. Rhoda's MIA. Drinking on the job. This is what happens. Okay. Oh, hold on. Wait a minute. Was that a... Oh, that was not a purple earring. I think that was the crafting piece for a purple earring. Interesting. Let me see if I can find that really quick. Ah, level 21. Yep. Okay. Also, cool thing to note about the Astells too is that when you do get Astells, you can select them in the deck and you can actually see what kind of deck effect they give. So having certain Astells in your deck, which is this bottom bar down here, it allows you to get certain bonuses. So, for instance, the one that I'd want to build for is, I believe, let's see here, which one has it? Maybe her? No, actually, I don't think I even have her on my list, so it's definitely not her. But yeah, one of these ones actually allows me to get higher ranged. Yeah, like high. Yeah, there we go. Increase the range of skills. So all I need is the Glacier Astell. And once I get her, I'll be able to actually have this bonus once I have her in my deck. So that's an example of what you can do with that kind of stuff. Okay. Oh, now she wants to work. Could have sworn I shot that thing, but okay. Oh, I gotta get my buff on. I'm such a dummy. I didn't have my thing on. I forgot. Not that important, but still, it's good to have. Not important right now, at least. You blaze through everything, mostly. Oh, snap. Hello. Now, one thing you'll learn pretty early on is that you'll start to have mana problems pretty quick. One thing that helps is if you get a regenerate mana skill, of course, that definitely helps. But, you know, buying pots pretty early on, they start to get pretty cheap. Okay. And then also, if you're having trouble still, especially early game, if you press Shift R, that allows your character to rest. If you want to look at where to bind this skill, look in the action menu of your skills, press K, go to action. Bam. You can also bind targeting yourself, party members, things like that. If you're a healer, that's probably going to help a lot. You can taunt. You want to act surprised, that's perfectly fine. You know, whatever floats your boat. You can mark targets too. It's going to be useful for dungeons and later on raids more than likely. All of it found in there. Same thing with these passive skills here. If you want to check those out, see what they do. And of course, if you want to look at your skills all the way down to level 50, right in here, this is what you want. Common Atra Crystal. And of course, you'll see frame drops whenever we're dealing with the UI. Definitely seems very common. Looks like we're almost to the boss as well. Now, most of the time, too, to my surprise, in the open world, things did feel slightly empty. And someone told me early on that we actually might be instanced out in the open world. I didn't even realize it, but it was kind of interesting during certain quests in the open world. You didn't know that you were going into an instance, but it was happening nonetheless. Very curious. Yeah, okay, bud. I'd use another tank Astell if I could, but she's like the absolute best right now. The choices is between her and a duck in armor, which the duck in armor is awesome. Clearly the better choice, but I mean, he can't tank for crap right now. You know, he tries. He just doesn't have anything that really amazing for taunting. At least from what I've seen. You know what? He's pretty good. Like, he's good at staying alive, of course. It's just he never wants to get enemies off me when I need him to. Always refusing. Oh, there goes. Well, he's about to prove himself. Never mind. he can survive this battle, he gets a raise, and I'll take everything back. Also, don't forget that you can actually, you know, execute your Astell's special abilities during combat as well. Speaking of which, I shouldn't activate this. Nah, he's gonna die. Got him. Okay, let's see what we get. All right, and this is some of the warrior stuff you can get as well. Good chunk of money. Got another Astell, but I already had that one. Okay. So the main thing is we completed the quest. I could probably go in here again if I wanted to and, you know, do this dungeon over. You do have dungeon tickets, by the way, as well. You can see them down here on the left side, bottom left. So the dungeon tickets, that was previously sold in the KR version as well. Apparently they do not want to sell anything like that in the new version, North America. However, there will be a loyalty shop where stuff that you would have seen in the Korean cash shop, a lot of that stuff might appear there instead, and then it'll be based off more of you logging in and, you know, maybe doing certain activities to earn those loyalty points as opposed to just paying for it. So hopefully that turns out to be pretty good. Hopefully they keep to that model that they want to go for. The game will be buy to play, so it will be $30 when it comes into launch. If you wanted to get into one of these betas, there's been a ton of giveaways. There's still a bunch of ongoing giveaways. Definitely try it out whenever you want. You know, doesn't hurt to try, right? Especially if you got nothing else to play, give it a shot. See how you like it, and only you can really decide if you're going to like it for sure or not. So I urge you to definitely give it a try at some point in time before the beta ends, especially on Saturday, because that's when they get the max level characters in. So if you're curious about any of these classes, hey, don't wait for it. Jump in, get to level 10. Been like, what, 3-4 hours, maybe, max, and you're good. And then once the NPC comes in, go right to him, level up your character, and you're good. Oh, hey, it's Alexander. I think that's the Discord mod. All right, anyway, that's going to be all for me for now, folks. I got to get back to it. I will see you later. Thanks so much for joining. Rock and roll.